Hello students. Today we will discuss about the utilizations of radioactive isotope in the investigations of the biogenetic studies. So after completions of this topic, you will be able to define the isotope and its type. You will know the definitions of the tracer technique, various steps which are involved in the process of tracer techniques, and methods which are involved in the tracer techniques, and the applications of the tracer technique. So first terms which is used in this topic is the biogenesis. Basically biogenesis is the productions of the chemical compounds by living organism. It is known as the biogenesis, and during the process of the biogenesis we can obtain so many compounds which may be classified as the primary and secondary metabolites, and these primary and secondary metabolites can be obtained with the help of various biogenetic pathway. For example, cyclic acid pathway, acetate malonate pathway, acetate mevalonate pathway, glycolysis, and TCA cycle. As in last video I discussed about the cyclic acid pathway, the end product of cyclic acid pathway is the phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan, which is used for the biosynthesis of the various secondary metabolites. Similarly, acetate malonate pathway can be used for the biosynthesis of the fixed oils, lipids, and acetate mevalonate pathway can be useful for the biosynthesis of the terpenoidal compounds, or we can say the isoprenoid compound. And glycolysis is the breakdown of the glucose molecules which is convert into the pyruvic acid, and from pyruvic acid we can obtain the acetyl coenzymes, and these acetyl coenzymes used in various biosynthetic pathway to form the secondary metabolites. Similarly, this acetyl coenzymes undergoes the process of the TCA cycle, which is also known as the Krebs cycle, and from this Krebs cycle we can obtain so many amino acids. So these all about the biosynthetic pathway. So we can say that the sequence of chemical reactions in which the productions of chemical compound take place, the process is known as the biogenesis. So whatever the intermediates and steps involved in the biosynthetic pathway in the plants can be determined with the help of some isolated organs, by grafting methods, then by the use of the mutant strains, and with the help of the tracer technique. So in isolated organ methods we simply take the part of the plants, and with the help of the tissue culture techniques we under the aseptic under controlled environment we will grow the plant organs, and then this part is used to determine the intermediates and steps which are involved in the biosynthetic pathway. And if we talk about the grafting methods, that in this methods we will take the two cut portions of the plants which are differ, but these plants are close to each others, so they will join, and from this grafting new plants will generate, and it will useful for find out the intermediate and steps which are useful for the this biosynthetic pathway. And if we talk about the mutant strains, some lower plants like fungi and microorganisms, some mutant strains are formed, but they have the lack of some enzymes which occurs in the natural intermediate. So these mutant strains can be used to find out the intermediates, and some additional requirement of intermediate also there is need to add some from the outer source intermediate to form the particular metabolite. So we can say that these mutant strains may be useful to find out the biosynthetic pathway. And last one is the tracer techniques, which is in this techniques we use the radioactive isotopes for the labeling purpose, and with the help of these techniques we find out the various steps involved in the biosynthetic pathway, and so many intermediate which form during the process of the biogenesis. So out of these techniques we will discuss in detail about the tracer techniques. So what is tracer technique? So in these techniques, various isotope, mainly radioactive isotopes, are incorporated into presumed precursors of the plant metabolites and are used as a marker in the biogenic experiments. Or we can say that it is the techniques which is defined as in which utilize a radioactive labeled compound to find out or to trace the different intermediate and steps which are involved in the biosynthetic pathway. तो होता क्या है ट्रेसर टेक्निक्स में, ये एक ऐसी टेक्निक्स है जिसमें कि हम एक लेबल्ड रेडियो एक्टिव कंपाउंड्स को लेते हैं जो कि आपके डिफरेंट इंटरमीडिएट और स्टेप्स जो कि बायोसिंथेटिक पाथवे में इन्वॉल्व होते हैं उनको आइडेंटिफाई करने में, उनको ट्रेस करने में या उनको फाइंड आउट करने में यूज किया जाता है। ठीक है, तो रेडियो एक्टिव आइसोटोप या तो हम रेडियो एक्टिव आइसोटोप को मिला देते हैं प्रिज्यूम्ड प्रिकर्सर्स में। प्रिज्यूम्ड प्रिकर्सर मतलब जो इसको हम मानते हैं कि इट इज़ द स्टार्टिंग मटेरियल्स विच फॉर्म द प्लांट मेटाबोलाइट्स। कोई भी प्रिकर्सर्स है स्टार्टिंग मटेरियल है रिएक्शंस का जिसको हम मानते हैं कि इससे हमें सेकेंडरी मेटाबोलाइट्स ऑब्टेन्ड होगा, उसको हम प्रिज्यूम्ड कर लेते हैं, उसको हम लेबलिंग करते हैं विद द हेल्प ऑफ द रेडियो एक्टिव आइसोटोप। Now what is isotope? The elements having the same atomic number but differ in the mass number is known as the isotope, and because they have the same because they have the same atomic number, because of these regions in periodic table they places in the same place. So we can say that isotopes are the element which contain the same number of protons whereas the different numbers of the neutrons. For example, there are three isotopes of hydrogen. For example, hydrogen which is represented as a 1H, then deuterium as a 2H, and tritium that is as a 3H. And similarly, isotopes of the carbons are 12C, 13C and 14C. And if we talk about the types of the isotope, there may be two types. First one is the radioactive isotopes which decay with the emissions of the radiations in the form of alpha, beta and gamma rays, or we can say in the forms of the neutrons. For examples, tritium is there, 14C, 15 sulfur, 131 iodine and 24 sodium. Whereas stable isotope does not involve of any kind of radiations, and the examples of these stable isotopes are the deuterium, 13C, 18 nitrogen. These are the isotopes, these are the examples of the stable isotopes. Now if we talk about the significance of tracer technique, so first significance of this technique is we can easily trace the biosynthetic pathway. For example, if we take the phenylalanine and we will incorporate a radioactive isotope of 14C into this phenylalanine, so due to which we can trace out the biosynthetic pathway of the prunescine. Prunescine is the cyanogenetic glycoside, so we can detect the intermediate and whatever the steps are involved in the formations of the prunescine. So with the help of phenylalanine to which we will add the 14C labeling compound, so we can find out. Similarly, the location and quantity of compound containing tracer compound we can find out easily. Okay, it is very easy to find out the location and the whatever the quantity of isotopes are present in the compounds we can easily determine by these techniques. And there are different tracer for the different studies. For example, for the studies on nitrogen and amino acids, so labeled nitrogen give the specific informations in compared to the carbon atom. Suppose when we will study about the proteins or amino acids, so labeled nitrogen will give more specific informations than the carbon. And these techniques are very convenient and suitable techniques. Easily we can handle these techniques. So these all about the significance of the tracer technique. Then if we talk about the criteria of the tracer technique, so the concentrations of the starting materials should be sufficient, so that and it should be resist to the dilutions in course of the metabolism, because in the process of the biosynthetic pathway there are so many reactions are there. So the concentrations of the starting material should be so sufficient that it can adjust up to the last product which secondary metabolites we are obtaining. So it should be sufficient, so it can give the final result. And for the proper labeling, the physical and chemical properties of the compound we should know very well. And the labeled compound, whatever the label compound is using in the process of the biogenesis, it should actively participate in the synthesis reactions, and these labeled compounds should not damage the systems in which it is used. So what is the meaning? That whatever the isotopes we are using in a particular synthesis or biosynthesis, so it should not disturb the chemical reactions which participates in the biosynthetic pathway. So these all are the criteria for the tracer technique. Then if we talk about the advantage of tracer technique, it is very highly sensitive techniques and it is applicable to all organisms. Wide range of isotopes are available. It is more reliable, easily administrations and isolation procedures. It gives the accurate result if proper metabolic time and techniques we applied. So next is the what are the various steps which are involved in the tracer technique. So to start the tracer techniques, first step is the selections of the radioisotope. It is very important steps in which we will select the radioisotope. So commonly in biological investigations, carbon and hydrogen isotopes are commonly used, and for the metabolic studies, sulfur, phosphorus, alkali and alkaline earth metals are commonly used. For studies on the protein, alkaloid, amino acids, label nitrogen atom gives the more specific information. ठीक है, तो क्या हुआ कि जो selections of radio isotopes है, तो commonly हम कार्बन और हाइड्रोजन के isotopes को बायोलॉजिकल इन्वेस्टिगेशंस के लिए यूज़ करते हैं, और यदि हम मेटाबॉलिक स्टडीज़ की बात करें तो उसमें सल्फर, फास्फोरस, एल्कलाइन अर्थ जो है कॉमनली यूज्ड होते हैं. एंड इन केस ऑफ प्रोटीन, अमीनो एसिड्स, एल्केलॉइड, तो नाइट्रोजन एटम की लेबलिंग करने पे हमें मोर स्पेसिफिक रिजल्ट्स हमें मिल सकते हैं. तो जो एक क्राइटेरिया होता है सिलेक्शंस ऑफ रेडियो एक्टिव आइसोटोप्स का, ये सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है कि सबसे पहले आपको आइसोटोप का सिलेक्शन करना है कि कौन सा आइसोटोप हमारे लिए यूजफुल हो सकता है बायोसिंथेटिक पाथवे के इंटरमीडिएट्स और उसके स्टेप्स को आइडेंटिफाई करने के लिए. एंड सेकंड स्टेप इज द preparations of the labeled compound. So the labeled compound can be prepared by the following methods, like these compounds can be produced by growing chlorella in an atmosphere of 14 carbon dioxides, and these all carbon compounds will be labeled with the 14C isotope. So what we will do, that we will produce the compound in a chlorella and we will maintain the atmosphere having the carbon dioxides, and all the carbon these compounds will be labeled with the isotope 14C, and from this we will inject into the particular compound. After that we will determine the radioactivity of that compound. By this way we can use this sample. And another way, by the use of the organic synthesis, we can use that suppose methyl magnesium bromide we are taking and we will treat with the carbon dioxide. So again we will the intermediate product which is forming, we will labeled with this 14C carbon atom. So the last product, acetic acid, we are forming here, it will consist the radioactive isotope which is the 14C. so it can be used for the labeling purpose. And similarly, this tritium is used for the radiations which form the radiation in the form of the beta rays, which contain the low intensity and its radiation energy is lower than the 14C, and basically it is used for the catalytic exchange in the aqueous media by the hydrogenations of the unsaturated compound. Unsaturated compound means the compounds which have the which has the double and triple bonds. These are the unsaturated compound, whereas saturated compound which have the single bond. So these tritium labelings can be used by the hydrogenations of the unsaturated compounds, and they will produce the radiations in the forms of the beta rays. Then there are the next step is the insertions of the radioactive labeled compound. So many methods are there by which we can introduce the radioactive isotope to the compound, like root feeding, stem feeding, direct injection, infiltrations, floating methods, and spray techniques. Now in case of root feeding and stem feeding, it is the simple method. We will take part of the root in hydroponic solution. Hydroponic solutions means the which contain the all the nutrients, so we will grow the root and stems in the hydroponic solution. And for example, if we talk about the tobacco that consists the nicotine, and this nicotine will synthesize in the root portion. So it is basically alkaloid tobacco, and nicotine will synthesize in the root. So by root feeding method or stem feeding method, we can biosynthesize the nicotine in the tobacco plants. And another is the direct injections method. So this method is useful for the stems which are hollow in nature. For example, some umbelliferous like fennel, and some capsular fruits which contain the capsule like fruits, for example opium. So this direct injections method is used for the stems and fruits which are hollow in nature, or we can say which are capsular in nature. If we talk about the hollow stems, then umbelliferous plants like fennel, and if we talk about the capsular plants, capsular fruit plants, for example, that is opium. Then another technique is the infiltrations, which is also known as the wick method. Here we will take cotton and we will make the wick, and this wick will we will join with the plant parts, and the terminal end of this wick we will insert in the solution containing the radioactive isotopes. Another method is the floating methods, in which we will crush the leaf samples and we will float on the liquid solutions containing the isotope compound. And spray technique is useful particularly for the some steroidal drugs, and simply we will spray the reagents to the part of the plant, and then we will use this part for the biosynthesis, and after completions of the process we will determine the radioactivity of the compound. By this way we can find out the intermediate and steps which are involved in the process of the biosynthesis. Now there should some precautions should be considered during this process. For example, the precursor should react at necessary site of the synthesis in the plant. So whatever the precursor we are using, it should be react at the necessary site. So what is the meaning this sentence? That where is the site of the synthesis of particular compound, that precursor should actively participate in that place only, and plant at the experiment time should synthesize the compound under investigations. The dose given is for short period. Then next step is the separation and determinations of the labeled compound. So if we talk about the separations, it will depends on the type of the plant material. Like for the soft and fresh tissues, so commonly methods which is used for the extractions, it can be used like macerations, infusions. For hard tissue, decoction and hot percolations methods commonly used. Hot percolations means when we will use the Soxhlet apparatus, and for unorganized drugs, macerations method is used. And if we talk about the fat, oils, alkaloid and glycosides, so commonly non-polar solvents are used, whereas for flavonoids slightly polar solvents are used. And for the phenolic compounds, polar solvents are commonly used for the separation purpose. Then these label compound can be determined by the following method. For example, first one is the Geiger-Müller counter. Basically, it is the detectors which ionize the radiations in the form of alpha, beta particles or gamma rays. ओके ये होता क्या है गीगर मुलर काउंटर, ये एक डिटेक्टर्स है जो कि आपके रेडिएशंस का जो आयोनाइजेशंस होता है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अल्फा, बीटा एंड गामा रेज, इसको जो है ये डिटरमाइन करता है, मेजर करने का काम करता है। कॉमनली इसको जो प्रोसीजर है, इसमें एक गैस यूज की जाती है। दिस गैस में बी नियॉन और आर्गन। नियॉन और आर्गन गैस इज कॉमनली यूज्ड to determine the radioactive activity, and thus when this all are combined, so it will form radiations, the gas conducted by the ionizations, and this indictment has been detected in the form of current pulses. Then another method is the liquid scintillations counter. So basically it is the detector, and scintillation counter is produced when the insulation detector is coupled to an electronic light sensor such as photomultiplier tube or phototube. A scintillator is the materials which exhibits scintillations, which is a luminescence property that is stimulated by the ionizing radiations. And some samples can be dissolved in the mixtures of the aromatic organic like benzenes or toluenes, and a small amount of the scintillators. Then gas ionization chambers are used for the radiations, X-ray, gamma rays and beta particles. Then mass spectroscopy is useful to find out the mass to charge ratio, and with the help of this we can determine the mass of the sample. Then NMR spectroscopy will give idea about the infrastructure, dynamic reaction status and chemical environment of the molecules, and particularly this is NMR. Full form of NMR is the nuclear magnetic resonance, and it will give idea about the carbon and hydrogen atoms which are involved in the molecules or in the compounds, and it will give idea about the structure, dynamic reactions and chemical environment of the molecules. Then another method to determine the radioactivity is the autoradiography, and in this methods we use the photographic film, or we can use the emulsion as an ionizing radiation detectors, and this method can be used for the histological tissues and for the chromatography sheets. Then if we talk about the methods involved in the tracer technique, first method is the comparative feeding methods. So comparative feeding methods means when we do the comparison between the pathway. For example, we obtained the C compound from the A, so there may be two possibility, two pathway may be there, one from the B and second one from the B dash. So there may be two pathway, one will goes from the B and second one will go from the B dash. So there will be the comparisons. So we can see that here there is two possibility, that from A to B to C, first A is the precursors, B is the intermediate product, then we will obtain the C compounds. But not A dash B. Suppose B is the radioactive isotopes which we labeled with the compound, and this radioactive isotope properties also coming in the final product, that is C. So in that case this pathway will not be follow. So when we will compare, so we can say that this will be the final pathway but not this one, when radioactive isotope activity is finding particularly in this compound. So compound A, precursor B, precursor B dash, and we are obtaining the compound C. So we will explain with the help of this example. For example, from the tyrosine we can obtain the norlaudanolene and intermediate products which form during this norlaudanolene formations. One is 3,4-dihydroxyphenyl pyruvic acid, whereas second one is the 3,4-dihydroxyphenyl ethylamine. So if we see that from tyrosine we can also obtain the dopa, which is 3,4-dihydroxyphenylalanine, and from this 3,4-dihydroxyphenylalanine we can obtain the 3,4-dihydroxyphenylethylamine. Okay, so this 3,4-dihydroxyphenylethylamine we can obtain from this dopa. So we can say that when we did the experiment, we can find we found that from tyrosine we can obtain the dopa, but from dopa we cannot obtain the 3,4-dihydroxyphenyl pyruvic acid. So we can say that 3,4-dihydroxyphenyl pyruvic acid can be directly obtained from the tyrosine, but it is not obtained from the dopa. From tyrosine we can obtain the dopa, but from dopa we cannot obtain the 3,4-dihydroxyphenyl pyruvic acid. समझ में आया आपका कि मतलब हमने टायरोसिन से नॉरलॉडेनोसोलिन हम ऑब्टेन कर रहे हैं, तो इसकी दो पॉसिबिलिटी हो सकती हैं। एक होता है 3,4-डाईहाइड्रोक्सीफिनाइल पायरुविक एसिड, दूसरा है 3,4-डाईहाइड्रोक्सीफिनाइल इथाइलामीन। अब ये जो 3,4-डाईहाइड्रोक्सीफिनाइल इथाइलामीन है ये आपका डोपा से भी मिलता है और ये डोपा आपका टायरोसिन से भी मिलता है। डोपा की फुल फॉर्म होती है 3,4-डाईहाइड्रोक्सीफिनाइल एलानीन। इससे आपको 3,4-डाईहाइड्रोक्सीफिनाइल इथाइलामीन मिल जाता है। लेकिन अब इस एक्सपेरिमेंट से हमें ये तो पता चल रहा है कि टायरोसिन से डोपा मिल सकता है और डोपा से आपको 3,4-डाईहाइड्रोक्सीफिनाइल इथाइलामीन मिलेगा, ठीक है, जो कि डायरेक्टली नहीं बन रहा है। मतलब इससे पहले भी कोई स्टेप्स है तो वो हमें यहाँ पे पता चल गया है कि 3,4-डाईहाइड्रोक्सीफिनाइल इथाइलामीन से पहले भी कुछ बनता है डोपा। लेकिन अब क्या है कि जो ये 3,4-डाईहाइड्रोक्सीफिनाइल पायरुविक एसिड है, इट कैन बी ऑब्टेन डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम द टायरोसिन। So this method is useful for the elucidations of the biogenesis of the propane alkaloid and in the biosynthesis of hemlock alkaloids. For example, conlene is there, conhydrine is there. Then second method is the precursor product sequence method. So in this methods, the presumed precursors of the constituent under investigations of on a labeled form is feed into the plant for a suitable time period. Later the constituent produced in the plants are isolated and purified and its radioactivity is determined. What we are doing in this method, that we are presuming some precursors which is used in chemical reactions to obtain the final product. So we will label this precursor compound and after that we will feed this labeled compound into the plants, and after sufficient time we will determine the radioactivity, and in this way we can find out the results. But disadvantage of this method is that alone, that radioactivity of isolated compound alone is not sufficiently give sufficient informations about the compound as a direct precursor, because in chemical reactions involved in the metabolic pathway, so it is maybe randomly distributed throughout the whole range of the products, so it is not. So to sort out this problem we can use the double and triple labeling experiment, which will give the more specific result. For example, so we can talk we can take the examples of the lysine which is presumed as a precursor for the anabasine, which is the obtained from the Nicotiana glauca, and it consists the piperidine ring. So we see that when we do the labeling of this second number of carbon atom with the 14C and the amino group present at the terminal end of this structure, so this nitrogen we will लेबल्ड विद द 15 नाइट्रोजन एटम। तो इसमें हमने क्या किया कि लाइसिन है, लाइसिन का हमने जो दूसरे नंबर का कार्बन एटम है इसकी लेबलिंग हमने कर दी रेडियो आइसोटोप 14C के साथ, और दूसरा हमने जो लास्ट का जो ग्रुप का टर्मिनल एंड का अमीनो ग्रुप्स है उसकी लेबलिंग हमने कर दी है 15 नाइट्रोजन के साथ। अब जो इससे हमें एनाबेसिन मिल रहा है, सो वी आर फाइंडिंग दैट इन द फॉर्मेशंस ऑफ पाइपेरिडीन रिंग दिस वन, सो बोथ आर इन्वॉल्व, these hydrogens of these amino groups are also involved, and this nitrogen also involved, and the carbon also involved. Whereas in second case, when we do the second amino groups nitrogen labeling with the 15 nitrogen and another carbon with the C14, in that case we will find that in the anabasine the piperidine ring only the carbon atoms is participating, this radioactive carbon only participating, not the this nitrogen atom. So we can say that only this terminal end amino groups is involved in the formations of piperidine ring in the formations of the anabasine. Then another method is the sequential analysis. It is based on the principle that investigations to grow the plants in the atmosphere of 14 carbon dioxide and then analyze the plant at a given time interval to obtain the sequence in which various correlated compounds become labeled. For example, in the elucidations of the carbon in photosynthesis with the help of 14 carbon dioxides, so it is widely used. Then in determinations of the opium, hemlock and tobacco alkaloids, and in the if we expose less than 5 minutes 14 CO2 in the biosynthetic sequence of piperitone to menthone and from menthone to menthol in case of the mentha piperata, that mentha piperata is the pudina. Then another method is the isotope incorporation. So this method gives informations about the positions of the bond cleavage and their formations. For example, glucose 1-phosphate, it is cleaving into the it is cleavage to the glucose molecule. So there may be the cleavage either of the CO bond or PO bond. So this oxygen 18 labeled radioactive isotope compounds we are using this one, so it will form the glucose molecules which contain one O18 number of this one, and this phosphate group will cleavage in the form of the H2PO4. Then the various applications of the tracer technique, like in the study of the squalene cyclizations by the use of 14C3H labeled mevalonic acids, then interrelationship between the 4-methylsterols and 4-dimethylsterols, then in the biosynthesis of terpenoid compounds by the use of the 14C mevalonate, in the formations of cinnamic acids, the coumarin from the labeled coumarins, then in the nitrogen atoms of the purine ring systems by the use of the 14C or 15N labeled precursor, then study of the formations of the scopolatins by the use of the phenylalanine, then 14 calcium as a tracer. So we can find that uptake of the calciums by the plants from the soil is nearly same both as the calcium oxide and the calcium carbonate. And by adding the ammonium phosphate labeled 32P non-specific activity uptake of phosphorus is followed by the measuring the radioactivity as a labeled reaches first in lower parts of the plant then the upper parts like branches, leaves, etc. So these all are the references which I used to make this video. So thank you very much for watching this video.